Good afternoon, everybody. And now a word from our sponsor, County-Based Networks. So we'll be looking at each slide as we go through, but it won't be doing too much of the fancy stuff. However, that's not the end of the world. English Devolution, the government produced a white paper in December last year saying that it was wanting to get everywhere to have strategic authorities based on unitary councils, and that would mean, in effect, the demise of district councils. No mention at all of the town and parish councils, who are and still will be the nearest local government to the community. So what we're talking about now is, do we sit and wait and see what comes down at us from on high, or do we actually think we need to, some things are more important to get on with, and we need to crack on anyway and keep in touch with the devolution process so that something sensible comes out at the end of it. And there'll be different views and experiences around the room to talk about that there. So what are the things? We're talking about local action. Obviously, there are many things that we could be talking about under that very broad heading. What we're about with the Great Collaboration in particular is climate change and things to do with the environment. So we've got here some pictures, the things that are affecting most people. Obviously, the heat waves, bottom left, we're all getting very sadly used to that. There's one on at the moment. Top right is a picture from Ottery St Mary in Devon. That is not near a river or anything that's overflowed. That is rain that has come down in a hurry a few years ago and didn't have enough space to get away. And there's a police lady up to her knees in it in Silver Street in Ottery St Mary. Bottom right is some people studying some biodiversity studies. Biodiversity, of course, is currently a statutory duty on every local level of local government to at least consider biodiversity. You think top left, what's the food bank got to do with people sharing things? What's that got to do with climate change? Well, it's certainly to do with waste. We're not throwing away food, we're sharing it with other people and help people who have need some extra food for their family, which for whatever reason. The other thing is that we have experienced, thanks to climate change, I think it was last year that Spain in particular and North Africa were very hard hit by heat, and the supply of salad crops completely diminished. And so food banks, food security, provision of food is affected by climate change in many, many ways. So those are the sort of things that we're talking about, and the sort of things that we might be thinking about in terms of local action. Okay, just a bit of background. There's the nice graph in the middle from NASA, which shows very clearly this sudden zoom upwards of carbon equivalent in the atmosphere. For millennia, atmospheric carbon dioxide had never been above this line. So there it is. It's very clearly placed there. So UK government, during the Boris Johnson government, declared a net zero target of 2050. As we speak, no branch of local government below central government has any statutory duty on climate change. Local Government Association, which is sort of a partly centrally funded body between local councils and central government, carried out a survey earlier this year, and the conclusion of it they've summarised as: local authorities need statutory duties and powers, sufficient funding and robust support to lead on climate action. Of course, what we're beginning to understand is that government don't have any more bottomless pockets than they might have had in the past. They certainly don't have any more. I'm always slightly concerned if I discover that people are trying to solve 21st century problems using 20th century remedies. It's very easy to say we can do it if we're given more money. It's a very simple thing to say. I was involved on behalf of town and parish councils with a local net zero forum run by the Department of Energy last year, and they were very clearly looking to find the ways to deliver change without any statutory funding. As we're familiar, any time that government puts a new statutory burden on local government, the hand goes out palm upwards, and we need some money, please, to do that. But at the same time, they say, well, actually, we are the local authority. We know what's best. Thank you for all that money, but we think, well, we need to spend it on adult social care. Thank you very much. So there are all kinds of issues around statutory funding. The white paper did suggest that climate change responsibility would be held at strategic authority level. In other words, it's at sort of mayoral level, if all strategic authorities have an elected mayor, rather than local level. And of course, as we know in this room, hopefully, delivery of response to climate change happens at the local level rather than at the top of the tree. So there is a bit of a disconnect there, or potential disconnect there, straight away. So that's where we are at the moment. What about town and parish councils? not mentioned in the white paper at all. There is some mention, and these links will be circled around everybody, and they'll be in the presentation that's shared at the end of the meeting. So you don't have to make lots of notes. So there are a few mentions of parish councils in the bill, but nothing about new functions. Neighbourhood area committees. Now, this is something I only heard about last week from the chairman of Essex Association of Local Councils. There has been some experiments as to how people might maintain local connections, possibly in the shadow of the previous district areas, and how that might work out. So I don't know that he didn't know the full value of that. Something called neighbourhood area committees is being piloted in a couple of places, and particularly in this particular link in Surrey. Theoretically, it should be about local people, local parishes and towns, other local bodies getting together. But this is early days. Whether that is going to be in somebody's mind that that's something that gets rolled out post-devolution is an open question, but something to keep a mind on, because whether people are thinking, parish and town councils have been transparent to local central government for years. It's not that they've been avoiding us; they just don't quite see us. NALC, National Association of Local Councils, Society of Local Council Clerks, been lobbying for changes for some time. One of the things is about making it easier for new councils to form. At the moment, the local planning authority, or district council classically, has got a power of veto over any application to be a new parish or town council, according to community councils. There's a new one in Chelmsford Garden Community Council, started quite recently. Famously, of course, Queen's Park Community Council in London. Some places are getting well ahead of this. When Taunton Deane Borough Council disappeared, when Somerset went unitary, Taunton Town Council reappeared the next day. So that's was already planned. Cheltenham Borough Council in Gloucestershire know that their days are numbered. They've already started working on how to develop parish equivalent local councils in the Cheltenham Borough area, so that there is continuity there. I don't know if that's happening in Gloucester as well. I've been advised that in Canterbury, where there is a district council based around Canterbury City, they are busy spending a lot of time trying to work out what their unitary status is going to be, and there is no movement yet on a possible Canterbury City Council, the sort of parish council level. So there's varying responses and various issues around the country, and certainly the people that are currently district stroke planning authorities have got a veto on new councils to form. So we might anticipate we get more town and parish councils, particularly in urban areas, but that's not quite so clear, as straightforward as it is at the moment. And a lot of people, of course, concerned about unitary status and what that's going to mean. The government had a fair funding review lately, and now has responded saying that they've asked for parish and town councils to have the right to apply directly for central government funding. Interesting idea. Of course, all local council funding at the moment, parish and town councils, comes from the local parish precept, local rating. How that might work in practice, I don't know. I would hate to have to get to the situation where there are more burdens laid on town and parish councils, and then 10,000 town and parish councils put their hands out, palm upwards. I doubt whether the government's going to be quite keen on that idea, but I'm told that there's a lot of thinking going on at the central government. There's the current Minister for Rural Affairs, Daniel Zeichner MP, Minister for Rural Affairs at DEFRA, apparently is considering all this, thinking about this, but we don't know what conclusions being come to yet. Meanwhile, local parishes and clusters of parishes are doing some great things, of course, as many of us know. We had a great talk from Kirsten about things that are happening in Gamling Game. There's a link through to that session. Amazing things being done in that parish. On the right, there's the parish Suffolk Green cluster. There were three parishes got together to work together on a joint activity. I think they're up to 9 or 10 parishes now, and there they are meeting. And they've been successful in setting up their own community interest company, which then applied for funding, and they've won £40,000 for feasibility study for a renewable energy project. So there it is. There are ways in which things can go forward already. Parishes and towns can already make a big difference to the futures of their communities. And there are existing powers they can use. My favourite is Section 101 of the good old 1972 Local Government Act, which says any local authorities can have their responsibilities, can help other local authorities with their responsibilities, and have other local authorities help with their own responsibilities. In other words, if parish and town councils were wanting to take over things that or support things that districts and counties currently do, the legal basis for that already exists. In some places, that's already happening. Parishes and towns are taking over parking, markets, and toilets and things of that nature. So there are powers there. There isn't the compulsion there yet, but if parishes and towns want to get going, then the opportunities do exist. And it's not just about local councils, of course. A lot of places, in response to climate change and community involvement in response to climate change, it's the community groups and local voluntary groups that are leading the way. Not least in some places where parish council chairmen still think climate change is all a con. There are still some. So there are national bodies that have local branches, Friends of the Earth and so forth, lots of individual projects as well. If they're conservation projects, their local wildlife trusts tend to support. Volunteer food banks, repair cafes, equipment libraries, so people can borrow tools rather than having to buy them. All kinds of things going on. Of course, we had a lot of spontaneous community involvement in helping elderly housebound people get some shopping in during COVID. So, that's all there happening. And of course, communities already get in touch with local parish and town councils over allotments. It's one of the very few statutory responsibilities on town and parish councils is to provide allotments or seek to provide allotments if people ask for them. So there is something there about that. So what we're talking about is council and community climate action. And that's very much where the great collaboration is coming from, going back to the early days from days in Herefordshire, which we'll talk about in a bit. I'm very glad that Jackie, the original chairman of the great collaboration, is with us today. That's where we're at. I say to almost every week to parish clerks, don't try and do it on your own. Get your local people involved, obviously councillors for preference, get together local working groups or whatever. Parish clerks, I was a clerk for 8 years, I've got plenty to do, but it's not a single person's job. Get other people involved, get local people engaged. That's the way to go forward. So, looking again then, counties may be a bit under threat at the moment, but traditional counties are still alive. Obviously, there's a picture of some agricultural shows still going very strong. I used to think that it was Alfred the Cake that started the county and shire processes in this country. I'm not entirely sure of that. Certainly once the Normans got in charge, they were very clear on having county-based organisations, and they had their shire reeves collecting funds for central government. And the shire reeve of Nottingham, or sheriff of Nottingham, of course, became notorious. Perhaps he was a bit too keen on his job and getting money out for the crown out of his local people. But there it is. Counties are still going. Counties, all the discussions we've had in the last couple of years is that that's a geography, area of geography that people understand, that they're used to, that they're familiar with. And it seemed very sensible to actually, if we're looking at joining up local councils and people to do something together, that councils is a good sort of area to be doing that in. Little bit of personal anecdote. 2002, I was working with the Countryside Agency on during the foot and mouth epidemic, and lots of footpaths were closed and various things were being sorted out. And I had a phone call from somebody saying, what's happening in Berkshire? And I had to share that person that 10 years previously, Berkshire disappeared in return for 6 unitary authorities. So, the idea of Berkshire had survived that sort of, even that local government reorganisation. So counties do, on the whole, seem to be where it's at in terms of joining things up. So here we go, the Herefordshire Green Network. This is something that's just lifted some of this text from the Herefordshire Green Network's website, bringing together local groups and individuals committed to a thriving Herefordshire, working together to address climate and ecological crises, dedicated to supporting communities. There it is. Herefordshire Green Network, the original developers of the Great Collaboration website, had some charitable funding, and through the website, some 350 individuals recorded over 2,400 climate and environmental actions within 3 years, and there was a paid advisor to support town and parish councils. The idea was always to make that the Great Collaboration would go national. Herefordshire Green Network were pleased to pass the baton to ourselves, the place-based initiative, in order to carry that forward. But that doesn't mean they're not still going. You may wish to say a bit more about what you're about, Jackie, later, if you would like. But obviously, we're publishing a fortnightly newsletter, which I'm still receive, of course. So Herefordshire, there we are. Save Our Shropshire. Shropshire has been doing things as well. They had a vision to achieve net zero by 30. Very much looking at education. through the Carbon Literacy Project, looking at getting people engaged in real behaviour change. The website there provides action ideas, linking to eco-traders. I get calls. I work 5 hours a week for the Society of Local Council Clerks. People say, can you recommend somebody that does installations of solar panels? Can you recommend people this, that, and the other? And so a certain amount of recommendation is available in Shropshire through that website. They also have an annual Climate Action Award, and as we speak, that Save in Shropshire initiative is in the process of actually being passed to SLCC to carry forward. So that's interesting. So we've got a Herefordshire example, we've got a Shropshire example. Suffolk, the great collaboration in terms of expanding nationally, we've started in East Anglia because we had three or four very prominent volunteers in East Anglia, including Kirsten, who's with us today. The county council there has been ahead of the game in East Anglia. They've had sponsored something called Green Suffolk, supported through the Suffolk Climate Change Partnership. There's a brief summary of what they're doing. They had a clear a net zero county where people and nature thrive. That sounds like a nice line there. Focusing on home, school, and work. That's the way they've approached it. Again, guidance for action, publicity, interactive map for groups in a community network. Now, that's a great idea. And we've certainly been looking at doing that with the great collaboration as well. Some links to funding through that website and also links to training. So that's where Suffolk is at the moment. I've been trying to get through to the people involved in that to have a further chat, but they can run, but they can't hide. I haven't got them on the phone yet. So there's those three counties. So where we are with the great collaboration, we're looking to work together. Let's go forward, working together at county level. Climate Action Workshops, our partner body, the Community Climate Action UK, have been very heavily involved in that. Networking and clustering for town and parish councils. We found it's very useful at the local level to exchange information. The National Association has got a climate emergency network with a WhatsApp group for people swapping ideas, which works very well. But again, people sharing things at a county-based level within their immediate areas, it sounds good. People ring me up and say, where's my nearest parish to me that's doing a repair cafe, that's doing new allotments, whatever it is, a community composting. So having them to get together. Green Suffolk, for example, has got that sort of community network, but it doesn't actually have the actual active town and parish council networking yet, though there has been some of that with the Suffolk Association of Local Councils. Forum to request good practice and request advice, again, very useful at a county basis. And we're planning to support, we are offering support at local level for joint funding bids. We will help local projects to seek and apply for funding. There's a bit of enlightened interest in that, because if we're wanting to get funds from community funds such as the National Lottery and so forth, they will like to see us actually doing some things on the ground, as well as just saying we're planning to do things on the ground. So there's something in it for everybody. We can help local projects around the country doing that. The paid county advisor that was operating in Herefordshire for a while, our good friend Claire, and that seems also essential, because most people don't want to just look up stuff on the website. We need to speak to a warm human being from time to time. So having a paid county advisor makes a lot of sense, as well as various online supports, various training events and such like. We have found 4 organisations in Cambridgeshire, Essex, Norfolk and Suffolk prepared to host a paid person. Obviously we need to raise the money for it, but people are prepared to host it and welfare those people so that they can then operate within those counties. So that's great. We're also partnering with Space Invaders about climate emergency centres, which are basically looking into taking over buildings that are not being used and making them available for voluntary run advice centres, climate emergency centres. The one in Colchester has just celebrated its silver anniversary, by the way. We're going 25 years, and there's others going. So it's all going forward. So that's where we are in terms of how we're going to go how we're planning to go forward with our county basis. We're not waiting for devolution to come forward. We're getting on with it. We've just started last week at the earliest meeting for a Green Essex network. This is the first one that we've got going. As you can see, there's lots of organisations there that are already in touch with that process, and we're busy adding some more. A key link there, you see I've got Stanway Parish Council in bold. This is because the clerk for Stanway Parish Council has agreed to act as the convener for this early process. and run the secretariat and so forth, because somebody needs to be doing that in each case. Somebody has to be the point of contact within each county. There's no point us aiming to do it centrally. That has to be obviously clearly a local county-based project, and in Essex it's Stanway, which is brilliant. We had a meeting in Stanway Community Centre last week, Tuesday. So there's quite a lot of parishes in Essex. There's actually 14 planning authorities in Essex and 1 county council. So there's quite a lot of merging going on there with to produce a greater Essex. So we've been keen, particularly the Essex Association of Local Councils, the chairman there, Mike Eldred, is keen to keep abreast of all that and see if we can find out what's happening as that process goes forward. A couple of things I shared with people last week in terms of funding opportunities in Essex. Again, which we've mentioned, Suffolk, Green Suffolk has got listing of those. Some counties have got listing of those. In Essex, it's not all in one place at the moment, but there are different sources of funding advice that we can find for Essex, and there it is. And that's local stuff, quite apart from the Lottery Community Fund and other national schemes. And we're busy. We're planning to apply to the Esme Fairbairn Foundation, for example, for a post in Essex. So we're talking with Rural Community Council in Essex as a joint bit about that. Okay, communication. We need to have communication. People need to join up. Yes, Zoom meetings. The WhatsApp group works well nationally. Essex are taking that on to start with, so they'll have a WhatsApp group so they can quickly text each other. There's a link there to the online forum, which is a free software service under the brand name of Hilo. This is something we're using within the Great Collaboration. We use it ourselves. We have some volunteers helping us develop the content and advice guidance from our knowledge base. Our idea of the knowledge base is we're not rewriting everything, we're signposting, and hopefully people can use the knowledge base to find what they want within 3 clicks of a mouse. That's our golden standard we're going for, but we do need to have some pairs of hands to help us populate that knowledge base, and we have got half a dozen people in East Anglia who are going to help us with that, which is great. Obviously, it pops as newsletters. I've mentioned Herefordshire has their newsletters. Clearly, if there's going to be a website, which one is it? That's useful. And good old social media. Parish town councils, by and large, if they've got social media, they tend to use Facebook. Younger people, of course, are big on Instagram with its images and so forth. But Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company. And my wife has both things, and she posts something on Instagram, and it automatically appears on Facebook as well. So that's a useful another avenue, and we need to find out what communication option is best for whom at which time. Okay, there are the listed networks. We've listed them on the Great Collaboration website. There's a link to them there. If anybody wants to look on the website and know of a network that's not there yet, please let us know and we'll add it. But as you can see, there's quite a few around, and quite often already working at a county level. Call is Leicester and Leicestershire. You can't quite read the small print there. So there are some budding networks around, or budding existing, I shouldn't say budding, existing networks already around the place. And we're not here to, as a Great Collaboration, to replicate or oversee everything. We're here to join things up. So we're there to support all these networks. And if there are other places where they haven't got a network, then we can like to help them see how they can go forward with that. Early steps for a new network. I mean, this is also perhaps illustrated most recently with the discussion we're having in Essex. Get a broad base of local partners, organisations and community groups. Let's get as many people engaged as we can to start with. First meeting, get a common ground, establish the agreement that we're going to go forward in a steering group. We did that in Essex last Tuesday. The next meeting is going to be in September. We can work out who's going to be leading on which particular part of the plan. As I mentioned, the parish clerk at Stanway is going to lead on the secretariat. We do need to do some fundraising and other things as well. I could give you a longer list of things that can be done, including things like influencing, obviously exchanging information and communication and so forth. But it's how that it gets managed very much at a county basis. And I'm prepared to expect, in fact, I hope that each county does it differently. Because if we can get 4 different examples from East Anglia, then we can say to the other 36 counties, well, look, guys, you don't have to do it this way. You can do it that way or the other way and find your way forward. Certainly keeping in touch with existing local authorities to keep abreast of local devolution plans is important. Why not? We can have councillors and officers engaged in these networks anyway. So let's keep abreast of that. In terms of town and parish councils becoming more appreciated and welcomed. I think the more we can have local action on the ground that's visible, the better. I think that applies across the board. But let's keep in touch with the current local authorities as well. Regular meetings, clearly. I've put there, have an open door policy because everybody needs to be engaged. There's no point having a county-based network and saying you're in and you're not in. There has to be room for everybody, one way, shape or form. That almost goes without saying. So that's a sort of rough thing about that. Little bit of management theory. I did a training course on leadership many years ago. A lot of us think, leadership is about, the Roman centurion in the Bible. I say, man, go and he goeth. But there are other forms of leadership. There's things about encouraging people. There's things about delegating with people. There's things about partnering with people. And there's Professor Belbin, who I believe is still alive, has did some analysis of what kinds of skills and attributes you could have within a team that in order to make it really effective. And you can see here he says, types of behavior in which people engage are infinite. The range of useful behaviors which make an effective contribution to team performance is finite. So yes, there's a coordinator top left. Shapers of the action stuff, evaluators, some of you may have already come across this. The team workers in the middle, keeping everybody connected and cheerful. Some researchers, some practical implementers. Plants, which is about people who are thinking up new ideas and new solutions. So if we're developing a new group of any kind for long term, there are plenty of roles that people can have and we can think about, as well as sort of, if you like, portfolios like fundraising or communications or influencing. There are other things that we can consider. So open door policy, let's get people involved. And let us go forward together. This is something I say on a regular basis because as my friend Jules would say, nobody's coming to save us. We need to work together to do it. Here's a picture of people getting together in Home Valley in West Yorkshire, local people to work out. You see the different tables for different topics, and they're working together to work out what was going to be best for their area. So that's what we're suggesting that people get engaged in. We're starting great collaboration in East Anglia, but looking forward to supporting people around the country as we go forward. Well, I've stopped speaking. Hooray, they say. No more death by PowerPoint. Those notes will be available to people after the occasion. They'll be sent round. Thank you, Amanda, for your note in the chat. And community engagement bell. Yes, Jim McMahon, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I don't know. I'm not up to date whether that bill has had its first reading yet, Amanda?
Yes, it has. It had its first reading the last day or the last week before they broke up. It's due to be revisited the second day back. So they're wanting to get going with it. Right.
Okay. Yes, the idea that devolution will actually save a lot of money because people in unitaries, there'll be less officers paid and so forth. In actual fact, I think the estimate was that it was only going to, I say only, across the nation, it might save something like £2 billion a year. When you think that the government's income is something like over £1,000 billion a year, it doesn't sound like much. But we understand where they're coming from. But we'll see how it happens.
Andrew, would it help if I say that from a union perspective, we've been told that it's not about cutting anything. It's just about reorganising the existing pot. So there's no more money, but there should be no aim to save money. It's really about being more efficient, more cost effective with the resources in a geography.
Right.
Yeah, what that means.
They would say that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, it's there's stuff that happens locally. People, I believe, by the end of September, each county area or each current authority area has got to say to government what their proposal are, what their final proposal is. Then that gets assessed, and we'll see where we go. But I think it's important that we keep in touch at a local level, but while keeping a beady eye at national level. Graham, you have your hand up, sir.
Just because one of the really, really crucial points that came out from Kirsten's presentation last week about why things are working so well in Gamlingay was the relationship that she built up at district and county level.
Yeah.
And I see lots of, or hear lots of words about talking to our new authorities, whatever they're going to be. But it's going to be very much a personal thing, isn't it? That somebody's going to have to drive this. And if you've got one of your people in charge who doesn't believe in climate change in the first place and doesn't believe that you should be sharing information in the second place because information is power and the power should sit at his desk, how are we going to make sure that during the process of the devolution coming into force, or the reorganization, as Amanda would have it, we're going to really make sure that we are talking to the right people?
Okay. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I would say now, yes, parishes need to link upwards. You know, whether people like districts and counties are linking downwards or not, we need to link upwards. Not always straightforward, because sometimes as parishes we're fed up with our local planning authority because they've approved something we didn't agree with. But we do need to do that. And some districts and counties have got approachable climate officers, and some haven't. You know, it does vary a lot. But yes, we need to be in touch with the people we have at the moment. Absolutely right. And certainly personal connections are certainly of value and important. How we go forward in Essex, as I say, one of the people involved in if you're going to have a steering group for joining things up, obviously you're going to be mainlining it on the people who are up for it and see the sense of it and want to work forward to it. You're not going to get everybody to sign up straight away. So 288 parishes in Essex, they're not all going to leap into this in a positive way, but somebody needs to be making sure that there are active connections with some of these other authorities. At the meeting, we did have somebody there from one of the districts, from Uttlesford district. This is a district that Stuart's lives within in Great Dunmow. Very positive. They already have a climate officer. They were very interested in what's going on and very keen to be involved. So we need to work with the people who we're keen to work with. In terms of people who, for whatever reason, are not engaging, whether they're at a local parish or town level or sometimes at the higher authority level, we need to show them that it works. And that's my concept, is that the more we can show we're effective at working together, we're doing good things, we're making a difference, and seeing things happening on the ground, then we'll get more traction, not only locally, but at higher levels.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you very much. Very good.
Okie dokie. Stunned silence. It's okay. Amanda.
Yeah, slightly at a tangent, and I'm using that to fill the gap. So while other people are thinking about your topic, we've been communicating about the Rural Services Network.
Yeah.
And they are linking in both to NALC and to LGA, and hence in terms of this extra networking of oil in the works that could get out to all the places that we can't reach, to use a beer advert.
Reaching the parts the beers don't reach. Yep. Indeed.
Exactly. So that's really where I was recommending that RSN, because it's about rural joining up. It's often the hardest to reach places, and that's where I see the synergy that we could work with them, but equally great collaboration would be a great addition to RSN as well. So It's not so much about a membership one way or the other, it's more about working in partnership, because you've got parallel aims, if you like, very similar.
Well, I'll be very glad if you've offered to be an easy mediator to get us to talk to the right person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I did get an email straight back from them saying, "Oh, nice to meet you, Mr. Malafant. We're not quite sure which form of membership we should be approaching for. Have a look." You know, I'm thinking, okay, right.
But it was just to get this opportunity to sort of vocalize, because you said there about forming networks, whichever way you can, whatever feels right. And I think it's that bridge between LGA and NALC that's especially useful.
Right. I mean, we've made connections with the association. Actually, with Communities in Rural England, ACRE, who are the parent body for the Rural Community Council, made that connection. Clearly, we're in touch with the county association, local councils around the country, but certainly RSN, who knows, Friends of the Earth we've spoken to briefly, and so on. Absolutely. Stuart.
It was the link up to the LGA, so it's the first and the second tiers of government, if you like.
Yeah.
That's where RSN bridges that gap.
That'll be good. Yeah. No. The LGA. I mean, NALC and SLCC are both members of LGA now. They said it's not quite a conspiracy, but people just somehow don't take town and parishes seriously yet. We'll have to change that. Stuart.
Hi, it's just a general question. Whilst I think everyone would agree that a net zero by a date is a good aim, but how are you actually going to measure it for a county?
Okay, I think that the thing about net zero is it's getting a lot of bad press at the moment, which doesn't help. You know, various right-wing journals and parties are saying this is a load of old rubbish and it's not a waste of money and all the rest of it. Every time I see on the BBC somebody crying in their coffee cup about, oh, we've reached 1.5 degrees centigrade above past norms, and you know the sky is falling, we're going to do something. That's not really very positive. What I strongly feel we need to do at local level is get people engaged in things that they can see makes a difference, whether it's about biodiversity, whether it's about dealing with floods, whether it's about dealing with other things. Yes, there are advantages, a financial advantage to a certain extent in moving to renewable energy, but of course there are capital costs. So my personal inclination would not be to say, as in effect Save for Shropshire have said, from their perspective, you know, net zero by 30. There are people in the world, in England, whose opinions I respect, who are convinced that that's the way forward. But as I'm with the Irish comedian used to say, it's the way you tell them. It's the way of doing it. And I think we have to be careful with our communication, which is the most important thing. How we measure it, we are looking at that within the great collaboration, because if people are going to, a lot of parishes, Cameron Gay's one, installing renewable energy of different kind and creating energy in terms of kilowatt hours, and other people are being more energy efficient and saving costs and so forth. We've been thinking about how we actually gather and record those. There has been a suggestion, and we're still having discussions with Parish Online, the mapping service, whether they could be engaged in that. So there needs to be a mechanism whereby, say, for example, at parish level, it doesn't have to be the clerk. The clerk's probably very busy, but if there is somebody at parish level that's gathering that data, as we know, the impact carbon calculator, which can be used to produce a baseline at parish level, isn't about local measures. It's about extrapolating from national statistics. So if you wanted to get really, it's good for priorities, but if you want to get really measurables against targets, you have to lose some of these other calculators and get a bit more careful at the local level. It's not going to be for everybody, but for the people that are up for that, maybe we start with biodiversity, maybe we start with adaptation for floods and heat waves. But when we get into that other thing, there needs to be somebody in each parish or town that is prepared to collect that data. And then we can find the mechanism, potentially through parish online mapping or through other routes to do it. It is important, Stuart. I agree with you, and it needs to be done. Myself, I'm not going to suggest that we lead with that. But you're right, it does need to be done.
Thanks. I mean, just from Essex point of view,
yeah,
I think they do have a net zero target of 2050. I think that would involve closing Stansted Airport.
Oh, right.
And quite a few sort of motorways and things.
Yeah. The part of the thing also with the impact calculators, if you happen to have a motorway or an airport in your council area, completely skews the statistics. So that's what some of this stuff, motorways you mentioned, airports, not necessarily within a parish or town council's control, but can still skew the figures. You're right. Yeah.
Thanks.
There we go.
I think the national push can be supplemented locally, though. I mean, yes, you're concerned about the motorways and the airports, but also we are switching towards EVs, and we are switching towards much more efficient aircraft and the use of different fuels to reduce. So I suspect they'll all come in tandem together. Whether anybody is actually measuring them, I think is a very good point.
It is a good point. There is a parish in Devon, I know, which is getting into some of this detail, but I think they're in a bit of a minority in terms of the measuring bit.
I remember that when Gary from Caution was telling us about some of their projects, they made measuring a major part of each one. And so Stuart's absolutely right. I know that Kirsten does a lot of measuring in her stuff, and she goes back each year to check whether each project is in fact generating still what it's supposed to do. So I really support the point that measuring is crucial. I think that there are going to be many, many ways. I mean, there's a little nature reserve that's being created in the little parish I came from in Somerset, and they've already started counting more bees and more different varieties of plant that weren't there before, just from one small, 3-acre field, and it's made a colossal difference locally. And if you multiply that by 10,000 parishes, then all of a sudden it does make a difference.
Yeah, we need to start somewhere, and certainly biodiversity can be a great place to start. I was given a phrase the other day called psychological distance. There are people that can see what's happening to the weather and so forth, but they don't actually make the active connection between that and their own behavior and things about carbon emissions and so forth. So I think there are, the changes are happening. Thank you for that link for the Jackie in the chat for the zero carbon heritage of grain. Kirsten.
Hi, thanks very much for all the mentions of my talk last week. Yeah, I mean, we do try and measure carbon in Gamma-Gay, but very rudimentary, very, very sort of light touch, if you like, but we're just trying to get to grips with it. But Cambridgeshire as a whole has a problem because a large proportion of carbon is through transport, through the roads that are going through it, basically make a very high contribution to carbon. And also we have obviously the greatest depletion county from our natural resources as well, our natural environment. So nature recovery is also high on the agenda. So there's lots of different things with regards to Cambridgeshire and what needs to be done. It's quite clear looking nationally that we've got some specific targets and things that we need to do. So it's not difficult to work out for Cambridgeshire the direction of travel, but it's from an own parish perspective, it's important to try and think, well, how can we contribute to those things? How can we actually measure those things to show that we are moving in the right direction? So yes, initial attempts for carbon footprint for the parish council, but obviously that's not mapping the whole community. That's something that potentially could happen in the future, but it's quite a costly process, so we haven't gone down that route. But there are different ways of doing it, and also obviously introducing specific biodiversity projects and trying to create measurements for trees planted, for example, or hedgerows planted, means that we actually see that we are making a difference. So I think it gives more power to the local people to know they're actually making a difference. So I think that's the main purpose of our approach, if you like.
Right. I've just an image has just come in from mine. People raising money for their to repair their parish churches. They tend to put a thermometer outside, isn't it? And the thing goes up when it will do. So there's different ways of getting the messages across. There we go. In terms of, I mean, the thing that Save Our Shropshire been mainlining on in terms of behaviour change, absolutely there's a point there. One of the issues, of course, is that we all want better public transport so the roads are free so that we can drive our cars. It's going to be a different world. It's becoming a different world. There are a lot of people who would wish it would stay the same as before. What is it they're saying? Donald Trump saying in America, drill, baby, drill. It's all very encouraged. People don't like change. A friend of mine said, "You're a regeneration officer. Why are you saying people don't like change?" Well, they don't. There has to be good reasons for it. They have to sometimes be working up to it. And so there will be all kinds of reluctance to make big changes to our personal and other lifestyles. But we need to, at the very least, have measures, approaches, actions, pathways for people to take as and when they come to it. And that's important too. So good practice.
Was it Save Our Shropshire that said that one of their key points was education? I think you got to get the children young and start getting them to think in these new environments and
well, we'll be doing that. I didn't mention it when I was talking about Green Essex, but we're talking about very much about getting involved with sports clubs. Of course, people can't use their pitches because they're flooded. They've got an interest, and of course, schools have been encouraged by government to produce their own climate action plan. So schools is a bit of an open door. We're getting, without any particular effort on our part in East Anglia, great collaboration. We've had several schools get in touch with us. So yeah, absolutely, go for get schools engaged by all means. I might have put that in the talk. I didn't, but yeah, sure. And get the kids involved, yes, so the parents and grandparents get to know more about it. Brilliant. Gary, I don't know if you wanted to say any more about measuring from your perspective, having been
Excited.
picked out by Graham?
Not
Say
really.
no, it's
Well, well, we just updated our climate action plan actually. So just uploaded the latest version on our website. And again, we're still trying to look at ways to kind of really get the message across of what it is we're actually achieving and where we're not achieving things, and trying to really give that sense to people of, where we are on
Yeah.
this against our targets,
Yeah.
to give them some kind of just some kind of like confidence in the numbers that we're looking at. And we do an annual report for the town council, but I just wanted to be absolutely clear about this, and I've said this loads of times before, that we're only looking at what we're doing as a town council. We're not looking at the parish of Corsham as a whole, because I don't believe any of these targets that are before the UK target of 2050 or whatever it is these days, or 2045, I don't think any county council have got a hope in hell of achieving net zero before the UK government does, because of the reasons we've been saying, like motorways and airports and stuffs. We just don't have the control to stop people from buying petrol cars, or to make people have heat pumps and that kind of things, and decarbonize the house. It's only the government that has that authority. So all these councils that are saying like, oh, we'll be net zero by 2030, I wish them all the best of luck, but I just do not see it happening. And that's why in Corsham Town Council, we're just getting ourselves to net zero and hopefully leading by example that way.
Yeah, that sound. Was it last year, Kirsten, that Gamley reached net zero with your own actions? Yep. So it can be done. Yes.
Oh, we can pay £30 to offset our carbon each year to be net zero if we wanted to.
Right. Okay.
That's how much we have to pay now to offset the rest of our carbon.
That sounds like a great result to me.
Yeah, it doesn't help us to get rid of our gas boilers or anything if we have to. All we have to do is pay £30 to some organisation to say, here.
Yeah.
So we're not going down that route just yet. We might do when we get to 2029 and we still haven't hit our targets.
I've always been slightly cynical about offsetting, because I think it was something that was abused by people in the early days. But there we are.
Yeah,
Jackie.
well, we're doing our own offsetting as well. So we're only counting offsetting for what we're actually doing ourselves in terms of
that's fine. I'm not. But the idea of buying offsetting credits in another country doesn't strike me as really what we're talking about.
No, not unless they're carbon neutral or negative already.
I think the only carbon neutral country in the world is Bhutan. Anyway, there we go. Jackie, you got your hand up. Jackie Jones.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say that here in Herefordshire, and this isn't something that the organisation that I co-chair, Herefordshire Green Network, is doing, but it's being done by the Climate and Nature Partnership Board, and I've put a few links in the chat there. And that was an initiative set up by Herefordshire Council, and I think there are 18 members. I'm a member of it, but it has all sorts of different types of members, some with a great deal of knowledge about their individual fields. Anyway, one of the things that we're doing in each of the working groups is to try to determine exactly what actions would be needed in order to achieve the net zero goals.
Okay.
And to actually quantify those. And it's obviously very, very difficult to do, but it has been done, yippee, for the built environment sector, or more properly, housing part of the built environment sector.
Oh, wow.
So to actually quantify what actions would need to be taken in terms of retrofit, heat pump, that's most of what it is. And generally electrification, so decarbonisation through electrification. And so the council team have worked with us. I'm the coordinator of that buildings subgroup. But there are others who know a lot more about decarbonisation than I do. And we've been able to work through those numbers. and now they're to follow as much as is possible for transport, for land management, because obviously it's a largely agricultural county. So agricultural emissions are very substantial, as you would expect, etc., etc., and going through the different sectors like that.
That's tremendous.
And Herefordshire Council is very ambitious. It changes colour as time goes on, but nonetheless has stuck with the ambitions to meet the carbon and sustainability goals generally.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a great.
And meanwhile, we've got an organisation that is essentially just trying to link people up.
Yeah.
Now that we've very gladly handed over the great collaboration to Andrew and Graham and Co.
But this is it, isn't it? It's joining things up, linking people up. It's giving people opportunities, all of those things that we've been talking about. And we were very proud and pleased to be able to take on the great collaboration from yourselves and to take it forward.
Yeah, it's great. And I just think, just keep on bashing on, and the last thing we just need is for people to get uppity about, oh, they're not doing it my way, or it has to be done like this.
No, I think that's a snare and delusion. It's keep calm and carry on, isn't it? There are different strokes for different folks, and we will get there in the end. Very well. Now let's go for it. Oh, I've said that already. Kirsten.
Hi, just to follow up on Jackie's comments there. Really interesting to hear, Jackie, built environment improvements that you've mentioned, but I know Stuart was also very concerned about trying to retrofit solar panels onto listed buildings. Obviously in Herefordshire you have a large proportion of listed buildings and historic buildings. I'm just wondering whether or not there's any best practice guidance that can be rolled out sort of more nationally, the way that you've tried to approach it, whether or not that's something that you can try and help this group with in future?
I don't think we're particularly the best place to go, to be honest. There is some supplementary planning guidance on it, but if I remember rightly, we sort of borrowed that from South Gloucestershire. I think I'm right in saying that. But there certainly are other counties which I think have got exemplary guidelines in place for that. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky.
Yeah, Historic England has actually got lots of things to say about this. I'll just put the link in the chat.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can get solar panels on Gloucester Cathedral, I'm sure we can get it on other places as well.
Yeah, but I don't know. I tend to think myself, there are plenty of other places to put them. So don't, why cause a fight about it? Put them up, all those warehouses, all those factory roofs, all those sheds, all those supermarkets.
So you say you've met net zero with your buildings?
No, we haven't, not at all. We've got we now have a sort of carbon descent program for that. So no, we absolutely haven't got there yet.
Okay.
But we have a roadmap of how it could in principle be achieved.
Okay, and do you have anything about listed buildings or areas in conservation policy that you've identified?
Yeah, we haven't looked at so much in policy, though, to be honest, when we were preparing it, I was really impressed by what I was reading from. Give me a moment. Cornwall had gone into a lot of detail, both in something that they'd published themselves and that their consultants had prepared. Anyway, that's me speaking personally. I was impressed. But no, it's had to be done very much as a ready reckoner, and our assumptions were that we would do the easy stuff first.
Okay.
So it's sort of upgrading. It's not trying to get the whole building stock of Herefordshire from, as it were, F to A. It's much larger amounts of smaller interventions. So essentially, it's taking the approach promoted by the AECB, the Association for Environment Conscious Building, which is looking at doing initially minimal fabric first retrofit combined with heat pumps to get that instant decarbonisation, potentially to go further later.
Okay,
But
that's
what
great.
our experience is a mismatch between the people, the homeowners or occupiers who are interested in net retrofit and want to do it. They tend to live in the hardest to treat homes because they are older, quirky. It's much the same way you are, I bet. Older, quirky. Each one needs a unique approach. So this is much more about trying to get ease to C on EPCs, which we all know are not the best level, but a way of measuring, and putting in heat pumps where possible, and trying to focus on the people who are off the grid. And I think at the moment, I think it's something like 45% of Herefordshire dwellings are off the gas grid. So there's quite a lot of work to do there, in terms of getting off oil largely and onto something else.
Andrew, thank you for that note in the chat. Yes, so planning authorities vary a lot from town to town, place to place, and they're not always very helpful. We did a couple of years ago, we did a case study with Newark Town Hall, which is a Grade 1 listed building. And the planning officers in Newark were dead set against anything, even though you couldn't see the solar panels on the roof. There was all kinds of grief about that. Historic England has at least they've accepted things like secondary glazing and so forth. Of course, if you've got a building where the old style radiators are part of the heritage description, then you've got another issue there. But we'd like to think common sense will go eventually. But yes, it is uphill in some places. You're absolutely right, mate. Yeah. What I usually say in those occasions is, I've got the wax if you've got the pins. Yes. There we are. Now, as strangers folk. Aye. But what I also say to people, if we're come across any kind of difficulties, somebody that is just blanking us or all the rest of it, it may be that we're not the right person to speak to that individual. Maybe we need to find not so much where maybe somebody else has got the way of speaking to those people that we haven't got. We get involved in a project, we're engaged, we're beavering away. We come across an obstacle. Maybe somebody else can help with that. Just a thought. Yeah. The times that I've joined to a new job and they said, "Oh, we've had this problem from your predecessor, we couldn't get it sorted," and I sort it quite readily. But then, of course, when I leave something I couldn't sort, and somebody else has to take it on. Just a thought. Yeah. Thank you very much, Jackie. Good. Graham, we haven't got any more thoughts today, but we've covered quite a lot of ground again, I think. Yep.
Yeah, I just suggest that the best thing to do is to move underground.
Well, of course, the most expensive people on the planet are trying to leave the planet, aren't they?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder a bit. There we go. Is there life on Mars? Well, there we go. But it's all been good. And yeah, we're still looking for speakers for the next couple of weeks, aren't we, Graham?
Yes,
so
please.
Anybody present would like to say some more? I mean, Jackie, if you feel moved to say more about Herefordshire and your own event on a Wednesday midday, you would be very much welcome to do so. And certainly what you're saying about measuring would be a great topic, I think, for sharing with you.
Yeah, I don't think I'd necessarily be the best person to present it, but I can certainly see.
Find the person who is and sort of
yeah,
induce them to share, unburden their wisdom. Indeed.
Sure, thank you.
That'd be good. Yeah, yeah. No, as I say, we're communication is great, but we can't all be good at everything. Even though we're trying, we're brought up, do what we say we're going to do and be there on the dot and eat everything on our plate and so forth. But we need to work with other people, which is most important. And get them to do stuff as well. Lovely. Cheers.
And on behalf of everyone, thank you very much indeed for putting together this presentation, particularly short notice. Great help, and thank you.
Pleasure. And let's just we will go forward together, and we'll do some more and keep this show going. It's great. Good stuff.
Take care.
Good night, John Boy.
Bye-bye.